You're live.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, and it has been a really interesting week and a half to 2 weeks in the part of politics that nobody really talks about, which is third party politics. And you guys know me, man. Like, I don't do horse race shows. I don't believe that we have a legitimate system. I think that our elections are only slightly less fraudulent than those in banana republics and puppet dictatorships. So if I'm talking about something that has to do with the U.S. electoral system, it is normally because some incredibly shady shit has gone down, and indeed it has. And if you've been paying attention at all over the last week or so, you've seen me interview Ian Schlackman about this and Dario Hunter about this. Today, I am joined by Chad Wilson, who is another Green Party presidential candidate. He is here with us right now and doing his best Shooter Jennings impersonation. Chad, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you're covering this.
It seems to be like just me. It really does. Like Primo Nutmeg and me and maybe Nico House, and like that's fucking it. And it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around that, because I thought we had this independent media landscape that existed to cover stories that, mainstream media wouldn't touch, and was here to like proliferate information that would help people. And no, we got to hear about Nancy Pelosi fucking 30 hours a day, every single day.
Yeah. It's something that you would expect independent media to cover the third party, the Green Party, and it's a shit show. And I know that, but the whole point is if independent media is not covering it, if you're not holding feet to the fire and paying attention to what's going on and pushing for better people to come out and a real race, a real voice, a real, real conversation, then we're not going to get anywhere. Graham Elwood, one of the things he kind of refers to it as, bickering, internal bickering. But it's to me, I look at it like, because it's a smaller party, and I guess it's how people look at it, is that you wouldn't say those that are trying to, well, I guess you could say it, that those are trying to fix the Democratic Party are bickering, right? It's the same thing. You're just putting attention into trying to fix something on a massive scale. When I'm looking at the Green Party, it's like the values are here, all these pieces are here, but it's the leadership that sucks. It's not really set up, or the conversation is not presented in a way that makes people feel comfortable coming to the party, because everybody knows about it. But why aren't people, joining?
Well, and I think that people in independent media are going to be. I don't see it as like a weird opinion that they're referring to all of this as like intra-party bickering, because most of these people don't bother to go out and talk to anyone in the Green Party. They don't bother. They didn't have you on. I think that like maybe Dario did a couple appearances on a couple of shows, but it's not what generates the clicks. It's not what generates that AdSense revenue cash. So it's easier to dismiss as, well, this is just bickering because your next, vegan smoothie isn't going to be bought by your coverage of the Green Party. Which is kind of, it's disappointing. But again, we've set up our entire media landscape, including independent media, to be a reaction to what happens in legacy or established media, and not this, independently produced outlet of, or avenue for all sorts of information. So it is like, and I'm not like, I mean, obviously I'm covering the shit. I think it's important. I think people need to know what happened in the primary. I think people need to know who is responsible for that. And I think if people are going to try and engage in any level in the political process, then they need to be aware of exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, so you kind of touched it. So it's the media, right? Our media committee, our communications director, his name's Michael O'Neill, and Michael O'Neill is out of New York, and he was actually paid by Hawkins' campaign this go around. So what they've been doing is they've been using the party's media, all this content that they're sharing. Well, they're sharing outside content in order to grow, and organizations, nonprofits of their choosing, and they promote the candidates of their choosing. That's kind of the hustle. So that's why controlling the narrative of national is so important, because national is kind of the face of of the party itself.
No, I get that bit.
So they don't actually do anything to promote the primary. Is what I'm getting at. The whole point is that they were silent about this. And then even Dario. See, here's the thing. Dario fails to acknowledge that he was silent between September and the end of March. Everything that was going on, he was virtually silent about. Like when other candidates were kept off the ballot, he was actually called out in Ohio at the debate. Well, they started the voting about candidates being left off the ballot, and about candidates not being allowed to speak, which basically me and Susan. He ignored Jimmy Dore's invite for months. I mean, Ron Placone's invite for months. Primo, and it wasn't until the end of March, when he was on Nico House's show, where he actually started talking about what was going on and stuff like that. So there was a purposeful being silent about what was going on through this whole time that was coming from Dario. That's my beef with Dario.
I've heard that expressed by a number of other Greens, like why were you quiet during this particular period, and I've asked him about that, and he was like, because I thought we might have a chance. And that was which I felt like was an honest answer.
Right.
Like if nothing else, I felt like I wasn't being sold a bill of goods on that one. It doesn't take away from the fact that all of this shit was going down, and there were only a few people that were willing to stick their necks out and talk about it. Now,
Right.
Ian but he had already left the party, and he had already dropped out of the race, and he didn't go full throttle like he did last Monday. Because according to him, he said, I still have friends that are, working in and working on campaigns throughout the country with the Greens, and I didn't want to expressly not ruin their candidate's chance or anything like that, but he didn't want to go out and name AMC and Kevin and Margaret, because his friends' association with Ian, that would have put a target on them, was his feeling about it. I don't know if you want to corroborate that or speak to that, but is that a possible outcome? Like, is that something that could have happened had Ian gone on the record way earlier about who was doing this?
Well, let's see. I think like Ian and all of us, we saw, there was some bad behavior. For me, I thought it was just like some toxic things, like some people doing this, and maybe I don't know what I was thinking. But as you go into it, you realize it's this like system, this network of people that they're doing it on purpose. They'd rather save their little hustle rather than give up give up someone, right? And that's where we're at now. It's like even Jill Stein and Ajamu, they're protecting, the whole Hawkins wing, the Andrea wing, doing that by allowing this rigged primary to go through. And they're doubling down, and they even manipulated the outcome of the delegates. I got 0.5 delegate. I tied Bernie Sanders, and they didn't even report it. They gave mine away at the convention. So that's something else that I've got to, and of course I've been in contact with my state guy, and my state guy is, he's like, oh well, you didn't get your name read out. I mean, like, they did this on purpose. They're trying to write a narrative. They're trying to do this. So I think what Ian, I think he made a good decision in what he did, how he did it, because he helped this, kind of fuel this whole thing, because he had his signatures, and he was in this long enough to where he had more weight and more merit. So by him dropping out, and by him even quitting the party, it actually gave a boost to what was happening, to the conversation. And Kevin Zeese, of course, emailing him or sent him that letter, that nasty letter, and just all that. I mean, I like Ian, super articulate. He was actually my favorite at the beginning. I was sad to see him go, but I realized, he didn't want to spin his wheels, because it's like you're playing a bullshit game. So then there's the other thing too, is that's something that Dario knew. Dario was salty about Ventura coming in, about all these people. He wasn't.
Rightfully so. Let's be honest. Rightfully so.
Well, I mean, yes and no. Well, here, and I'll tell you my opinion on that. Well, first of all, Dario was more concerned about. He wasn't concerned about Ventura getting cheated as much as he was about him coming in and thinking that he can come get the nomination. So I looked at it like this. So having the conversation is the most important part, because if we're saying we need this, and this, and we look up as a matchup, we look up, as any coach, anybody that has their best player, they're going to put them in at the game-winning moment, right? That's what someone do. You're going to pinch hitter. You're gonna substitute. The point is to have the conversation as a party would have been important to have, about a possible Ventura. So, but so I understand the concern, but I mean, let's face it. There's less than 10,000 people that is really engaged in this primary. We've not done any kind of promotion of it, and it's like a little small echo chamber. That's not a real representation of the country. So I look at it, and that was the whole thing about Ventura. Of course, I like that he's willing to ask questions. We don't have to talk about Ventura in that aspect. I knew that having the conversation, and there's a wave of people that are willing to join, that are putting their energy in, that are trying, and then they just got screwed over, because as soon as Justin Beth and Aaron Fox screwed them over, that's when they reached out to me. This group of Venturians, they reached out to me to let me know kind of like what was going on. Of course, Justin Beth using a fictitious name in order to pretty much run this exploratory with Governor Ventura.
Can you go into that a little bit, because I'm less familiar about that aspect of all of this? And I do want to say real quick, like, I was opposed to Jesse Ventura being the Green Party nominee, not because it would have taken shine away from my preferred candidate, but because he did none of the actual legwork, and him entering, potentially entering with like a month or a month and a half to go before the actual convention. It was kind of like, well, you're using your celebrity to take over a nomination process that is supposed to be, and I didn't know. I knew that there was some shady shit going down, but I didn't know the extent of the shady shit that was going down. So I was kind of like, well, it seems like the Green Party has the right to, run their primary in a way that is equitable to the candidates, in a way that allows for the process to play out fairly. And that's why I was opposed to Jesse just sort of waltzing in and being like, "All right, Mean Gene, I'm running for president," you know?
Well, see, here's the thing: is that the PCSC had already reached out to Jesse Ventura back in 2019. They knew his strategy, and if anybody that follows along with Jesse Ventura, that is his strategy. He waits to the very end, and the whole point of him coming in, he could have disrupted, the delegates to prevent Ventura, or to prevent Hawkins from reaching that amount. But of course, they kept lowering these delegate amounts, and there's a bunch of shady shit that's going on. This is not just one. So I understand the whole point, but you said it. It's like, it's not about a celebrity. People have been asking him to run. He's been talking about running for 20 years. So for him just to have an exploratory, this was a big deal, and it was a big deal for a lot of people that really followed. I mean, and that was just the scratch of the surface. So what happened was, Aaron Fox and Justin Beth pretty much throttled the growth and kind of tripped over themselves. I mean, if you saw Aaron Fox's little press conference where he recorded it, I mean, it was static. I mean, this guy's supposed to be a campaign manager, and you can't even stream. They missed the boat, and a lot of this shit's on purpose. I mean, look at it. Look at that they're okay with Hawkins. So this is the way I'm looking at it. So in 2018, Ventura was talking about running on the green ticket. Said somebody approached me about the greens and whatnot, thought about running, and he got press from TMZ, got press from a few different things, just talking about it in the airport and walking around. So that's when William Pounds brought it to attention to our little group that we talked on these things online, and we started doing these Ventura-thons basically to talk about a possible Ventura run. This was in 2018. So I don't know if you've seen that screenshot of Andrea or not. And I can email that to you. But basically, where they were discussing with our ballot access coordinator for the party and for Hawkins paid about loading up the PCSC, and that they have to get rational people on the PCSC. So Brendan Hobbs said about loading up. It's time to load up this committee, this is where all the stuff stemmed from, the Presidential Campaign Support Committee. And it all goes back to, like, one of the things is the affiliation role, and we can get into that. But having your people on these committees is what allows these things to go through and nobody to protest and to push it through. So what we've come to find out is that this group of people organized the campaign for 2020, and then they selected their candidate. And I can send you the link there too. But Chris Blankenhorn, he's the vice chair of the Eco-Socialists, the Young Eco-Socialists. So, and he's from Illinois Green Party. Well, he introduced this whole thing for Howie Hawkins to say, I was one of the original members of this draft Hawkins thing, and saying, we came up with a plan for 2020. We had a plan, but we didn't have a candidate, or something like that. And so it clearly shows that they've planned this out. So Andrea, of course, Jamu, Kevin Zeese. If you've seen that Green Party Power, you can go to I don't know if you've seen that or not, the link, and I can forward that to you too. I should have had all this stuff ready. The Green Party Power, it says who they are and stuff like that, and it's an outside group that's basically organized to take control of the Green Party, and essentially that's what they've done. By stacking these committees, wearing dual hats and triple hats here and there. So that's when all the stuff started with Ventura. So I've got audio and a conversation with Justin Beth where he acknowledges that he first talked to Ventura back in 2019. So as far as the internal part comes, is that everybody pretty much knew what his strategy was going to be. So it wasn't it wasn't
a secret to anybody on the inside.
Right. And then in fact, that's the whole point, was they were trying to do what they can to make it seem like there was no viable path forward, and to disrupt. See, they thought he was a libertarian. They kept saying libertarian. And Andrea, one of the things that she put in this email that Ian revealed, this is what he revealed in his leaving the Green Party thing, was where she influenced as co-chair, as steering committee, and as the campaign manager about about ballot access, pledging to not run against the party, and or being a member of a party of a ballot access, which is that's where we're at now. One of the things that the PCSC, the Presidential Campaign Support Committee, has ignored is this affiliation rule, which Hawkins is a member of, the Socialist Party USA, which is an FEC recognized political party. Its national party is located in the state of New York, and it's not affiliated with the Green Party, but they're essentially growing another party with our resources.
So you're saying are you saying that you're still in the Green Party? You're still planning on being a member of the Green Party? Is that or are you going to be looking at other political alternatives, or are you done with politics? You're going to buy some black skinny jeans, move to Portland, and throw rocks to cops? Like what? Where are you at right now?
Well, the values of the Green Party is what brought me to the Green Party, and I've been having a conversation with a bunch of Greens about possibly starting a new national party. Coming up with and looking at all these things that are wrong with it and the way it operates. Figure out these things that need to be fixed regardless of what name you put on it. But there's a lot of people that are tired of the GPUS and what they've done. So it wouldn't be too hella hard to rebrand as an independent Green Party and restructure based off off the values and stuff like that. I mean, what they're doing is and it's not. I don't think that's what people would necessarily want to have to do, but they're willing to do it at this point. So I mean, I want to be involved in applying pressure through this way, because we know that one of the things is that they cheat regardless. I mean, they've got so many mechanisms in place all the way around them. So in order to have real change, there's got to be some clever ways in order to get people together on board. Because it's not just even being out in the streets is one of the ways, but we don't even have like precise demands as a public. This is what we're doing.
I think the public knows what it wants, Chad Wilson. I don't. I think that there are people that could probably articulate their individual wants or needs, but when it comes to a collectivist approach, I don't think that Americans as a people, I don't think that we've been given the proper tools to think in the collective. You know what I mean?
I agree. And I look at the three issues as corruption, censorship, and propaganda, because those three things really connect to everyone, and it's what's building up our ignorance. And if you're censored, you can't have these conversations about what's going on. If you can't have these conversations, you can't see how the propaganda works, how they manipulate. It's social engineering. These are the kind of things that you see that I don't think people even realize the real depth of what the Pied Piper strategy is. We talk about Julian Assange and what these emails revealed of the Game of Thrones that these people are playing, and nobody's thinking in super big picture of how these. I mean, people are, but people aren't, if that makes sense as a whole. And then, of course, the corruption. I see that people are tired of corruption. It's just the problem is that they have to pick a side in this two-party ideology in order to fight the other side. That's like the devil they know. And where we're at is because we're in a weird position. So the whole Russiagate thing, right, it is propaganda and bullshit. So there was a real opportunity for the left in order to call these things out in a way that connected with people that would consider themselves the right or conservative, or even some Trumpsters, like, because people pick one or two issues to jump on a train. It's kind of a group think. So having real honesty, real discussion about how like Obama and the Clintons, and how the left media gaslights the right, having that would take the wind out of the sails. First of all, if Trump a lot would take the wind out of the sails, because when you're being heard, when you're being listened to, you don't have the same kind of angst, and what has been going on the last few years has been constant. Well, part of it's Russia, the Mueller report, and you're giving real valid things for people to protest, real bullshit, right? So there's been this, what I've seen is that there's been this real coming together in an odd way. There's a pulse that allows people to connect, and you see it in Jimmy Dore's chats. You see it in certain things where there's people that consider maybe Trump supporters, but they come for the information, and part of the reason is they see the biggest problem is the left. You know what I mean? Because of Trump, Trump being a symptom of the disease. You know what I mean? So it's weird. It's weird to see, what and how people judge their politics. I guess if that's something that I've been paying attention, because and I've argued with people, and I kind of got a little shit for talking about that. But if you spend time getting emotionally, triggered and getting pissed off about these things, if you can't get out of it and realize, wait a second, these are just boilerplate things, wedge issues that are meant to get me to respond off of, rather than looking at the root issue. Like it all starts at the root. It's like the cannabis, there's more people in jail for cannabis than all violent crimes combined.
Yeah. I said on Twitter this morning in response to something else, but I think it holds true broadly, that the U.S. is basically a Pavlovian experiment at this point. And there's certain words or phrases or images that are exactly the same as ringing a bell, and it gets 26 or 45 or 50% of the population to just come running and like, okay, the bell rang, I'm gonna go ahead and bark now, and that's where we're at. And we've got different media outlets that exist to ring different bells. And if one outlet is ringing their bell while the other outlet is ringing their bell, then people just go and they clash and they argue and they scream at each other, and they walk away going, boy, America's never been more divided than it ever has been in the history of the entire country. And when you actually go out and you talk to people, you find that we are way, way, way less divided than what we are exposed to through media. In fact, we have way more in common than we do different. And we have similar wants, but again, because we can't think in the collective, we can't articulate what those are. And you're right, man. As soon as you start getting what you want, your squeaky wheel got greased. You're not making as much noise. So it's a weird thing to think about, like, especially me, the people that I talk to, the people that I hang out with are by and large more of the anarchist bent. And I hate fucking labels and isms and shit like that. But if you were to throw one of those at us, anarchist is more than likely what would stick. You know what I mean? I can't imagine getting 10% of the shit that I have advocated, let alone enough to shut up and be like, all right, I'm comfy, and we're talking about a dude here in me that, like, all I really need to be comfortable is enough books to dump my brain out at the end of the day. I'm pretty much comfortable. I can't imagine, like, having my fucking checklist of shit that I would like to see in this country change enough to the point to where I was like, all right, I could take a break now.
Right. Well, one of the things that it's like an emotional response. This is what they want. They want a certain type of emotional response when they do those calls, to get people riled up. I think we're in a different position just because of having the internet, right? We're able to connect and see more of the pulse of certain things, and I'm that's what I'm hoping to get to. So we're arguing different points. So part of this has to do with the approach and the way that I'm looking at it. So look at Colin Kaepernick, right? We all know the difference between why he was kneeling, as which is different from what he was doing. People are arguing two different things about how he was doing it, and other people are about why he was doing it.
Yeah.
So we have to acknowledge that people are tuned in and tapped in and programmed to have an emotional response to certain things like that. That's the whole point of the protest, is because that was a time to get people's attention. So you got people's attention. It makes them uncomfortable because of how you're taught to look at the flag, how you're taught to look at this thing. It's a programming. So one of the things that I realizing for me is to be able to acknowledge how somebody feels, even if you don't necessarily agree with it. But does that make sense? Like I look at why he's having that emotional response, or why someone's having that emotional response, rather than me trying to have an emotional response off of his programming, right? Like, you've got to expect someone to feel that way, because that's one of the programming ways that keeps change from coming, is because they block, they help block society, because that, I mean, like you said, they have different outlets that put out different kind of ideas and concepts. Consent manufacturing could sit in its own way. So that I feel like that's the perspective that we're going to have to start taking some of these things to, and really be able to break down society. I mean, from a totally different way. I mean, we're still young in the internet age,
No, that's true. I mean, we're about a little less than 30 years in, and what's crazy about that is that there's only not a handful, but there are significantly less people active on the internet right now who remember what a free and open internet was like than there are people using the internet. And that's a fucking just fascinating concept for me to think about, that I will probably explore later. We do have some questions coming in from the chat. The first one being, how can we get the Green Party out of the toilet?
I mean, it's getting people to believe in the values. Like I said, I look at it as there's probably less than a couple hundred people, less than 100 people that are really pulling the strings of the whole National Party. So to have a wave of people coming in that creates, a type of vibe, a type of energy. And that was the other thing I saw with Ventura, is that everybody that was connected to that was cool. And it's its own vibe. So you could build something out of a culture, out of an ideology, I guess. We have to be the architects of the type of society we want, this type of party we want. And I look at it like it needs to be super transparent. Like every dime, every dollar, everything needs to be easily checked on. The rules, the bylaws, how things operate, it needs to be super clear. Now, I mean,
and Ian's accusation was that it's operated as kind of like a private social club and not like a political party.
Right. Well, I mean, and one of our 10 key values is decentralization. So they use that as a smokescreen to say, "Oh, we're decentralized. The states can do what they want." But all it takes is for a few states in order to stack, stack these certain committees for the national party. See, it's the national party that's the problem, because that's why they're worried about controlling that, because they basically get all the resources from all the states, because all the states sign. It's a federation. So if they're not willing to hold people accountable, and then, I mean, a lot of people have to step down, and we're in the process now of really naming some names. um Putting down that list, like Michael O'Neill's our communications director. He needs to be out. These people never need to ever be able to hold any position. You got Margaret Flowers, of course, Kevin Zeese, on Andrea, of course, Tony Ndege, um, who else? Anita Rios, uh, Rich Whitney. You've got Chris Blankenhorn, Brennan Phillips. There's a lot of people. Uh, I, I don't know off my head. Just got to start calling these people out. John Andrews needs to be kept. There's some other people too. Here's the way I look at it, right? So the Green Party is worse. It's a smaller party. So if we can't effectively, apply pressure and do something on a smaller level, I don't think we're able to do that on a larger level. So this could be practice. And I mean, look at, because you got Jimmy Dore. Everybody knows about the party, but why aren't they involved? Why aren't they engaged? Why isn't the party reaching out? And it's become clear through this whole process is that they've been using this as a hustle. So now that everybody knows, the door's open to really have this conversation. Like, I mean, I look at Jimmy, I look at some of these people. I don't look at them as necessarily journalists as more as I do as activists, just talking the shit, talking the truth. So all these people that we look at, progressive, need to be on board with something. Like, if we can't get those people with the voice that have all these followers, that have the ear to these people, then what are we doing? That's why I looked at, like, Dario. Why would you ignore Jimmy Dore's invite for months when you say all this is going on and you really cared? Don't you think that you could have surpassed Hawkins? I mean, it was before any vote had been cast. You would have been.
Yeah, I think that there's some validity to that. I think that for and I can't speak for Jimmy Dore. I can only tell you what I've heard him say publicly, and that's he's a fucking comedian. And he doesn't want to be a political operative, and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to dedicate his channel to the proliferation of one political party or another. And, like, I get that, dude. I do. I personally, I don't think that there's a path towards a sustainable future inside the US electoral system. I think that if you've got a machine designed to kill you, and your solution to that machine, that flaw, is to put a couple of new parts on it every 2 to 4 years, but do nothing about the overall design of the machine, then all you're doing is extending the life of a machine designed to kill you. And I don't see us getting out of the situation that we've been put into without our consent, without our vote, without our say-so, uh, inside the framework that we currently have, So, I mean, and when I have candidates on the show, it's rare. It's only because they're not operating inside the duality, and it's more to highlight just how illegitimate of a system the duopoly is, because any country that wasn't fucking just a complete banana republic would allow for third, fourth, fifth, sixth parties. And those candidates would all appear on stage together when it was debate time. And there would be, if not equal, then equitable amounts of airtime given to them. And that's not the reality that we live in.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And see, here's the thing. Like I said, I acknowledge all those mechanisms in place. That this is not like, oh, we're going to really vote and change without a lot of outside pressure, without a lot of something radical has to happen. And see, so I looked at the Green Party as a banner, right? Because of the four pillars: the ecological wisdom, justice for all, grassroots democracy, and nonviolence. So I looked at those four things as super powerful that everybody could get behind. So I look at as again the symbolism, and how people relate to that, and of course the art, and taking the art direction. And you need a cultural coup in order for a political coup. So that I understanding that. So that was one of the pluses of even a Ventura just even being in the primary, would bring attention to the party, and someone like Ventura could get support in a way that they couldn't deny it, what was going on. And we could talk about, the negatives and stuff like that, but that was one of the things that you when it comes to strategy, you have to look at, okay, well, how do you break through these certain things? How do you make sure that they're listening? And I've proven that I've been able to even break through the Green Party's narrative too, without spending a dime. I've raised $200, and the whole point is you're going to get, when you have people's energy, when you have people excited about something, when you create a culture, a vibe, and energy for people to jump on and engage, that there's no dollar amount is going to get the same type of thing. And I was looking at this from a digital landscape from the beginning anyways. And it just so happened that this whole COVID thing came in, and then everybody switched to digital. This is what, this is the future. This is the one thing that we have that no other time has had. We can really communicate, and we have to. So I look at too as language, is that, one of the, is making people feel comfortable and understanding what it is that we need, right? So when you say, like you said, when you talk to somebody, we're more alike than we're different. Everybody cares about their family, wants to protect. There's some core basic things that you can, well, for the most part,
Yeah.
you can get down to. So being able to speak people's language and create a portal to understand these cultures and subcultures of and that's the whole point I looked at the Green Party can do, because it's the value we can add without taking office. We should be able to give information of how to run, how to understand your local government, how to create co-ops, how to take the resources. Like we can connect the country, the rural areas, with the city now, because there's so many of these old buildings, there's so many old houses that can be the wood can be reclaimed, renewed, reused, repurposed, and I mean there's plenty of material. We could take plastic and 3D print with it. There's just, I look at it that's what the Green Party could be doing and can be doing. I mean, we can have a digital landscape, and set up our own side by side government, of people state by state, in order to try and perfect some of these, direct democracy, because things are changing with technology. It's just how do you get people on board to go for the same thing, right?
How do you get people to be ambassadors of the potentiality of technology? Because what we have right now are largely the determinations that are being made about how to best use technology and who gets to use technology are not being made by the end user. And so I'm a digital privacy rights advocate and a information activist, and there are a number. I got so many thoughts about this, Chad Wilson. I really do. I fucking I think about this a lot, and I talk about this a lot, and I think that unless globally everyone who uses the internet really presents a show of force online, the things that are happening right now, where social media sites are basically becoming aggregators of news and separate echo chambers in the same small, you know, sphere. I guess that was a lot of alliteration. I was trying to avoid it. Fucked up, didn't happen. Used the alliteration. And I'm going to circle back to the thought. I think that is, unless there's a show of force against tech monopolies, the news aggregators that Twitter is becoming, Facebook basically all but is, Instagram is, whether it knows it or not. I think that unless we reclaim that digital space, we are going to see a lot of what happened in the last 24 hours. And that is tens of thousands of accounts on Twitter being removed just because they were dumb enough to think the magic man on the fucking chat in the chat room with the letter Q was somehow both the only person who could predict information correctly ever in the face of always, and be like always fucking right. Based on their idiocy, they were banned from Twitter. And there are people on the left who are cheering this on like it's fan fucking tastic news, like they're not next. Like I'm not next, like you're not next, like anyone who has ever advocated for Julian Assange or against the official narratives aren't fucking next. And it is so frustrating because they are playing into letting the power remain where the power currently lies. And I got, how do we get around that? How do we get people to come together on the fundamental issue of protecting the landscape of the technology that takes up an incredible percentage of our lives?
Well, you know, so this is strategy here, because there's Thomas Paine said a long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives it a superficial appearance of being right, and at first will raise a formidable outcry in the defense of custom, but the tumult soon subsides. Time makes more converts than reason. And the time makes more converts than reason was, it just stays with me. So it's understanding that we all are this cognitive dissonance. We're all claimed victim to this cognitive dissonance at times. So, and I was talking about this before, like with this Russiagate, right? Understanding how the Russiagate propaganda has been used in order to ignite and get, keep gaslighting Trump supporters, and actually it grew Trump's support base because people were looking at it as in that was a valid point to jump on that train. So the point is acknowledging where a broken clock is right twice a day. Like I said, take the wind. So that's building trust. And I see the left as the, it has to be the left in order to present this the right way, because doing it right and setting up the right type of vibe, energy, because remember it's creating a response, a large response mechanism to people that don't agree with you. So finding those things that we're talking about, like the censorship and the propaganda, and those build the trust, and building the trust can lead can lead to having the conversation. Because like
But what happens when people are cheering on the censorship and entirely supportive of 50% of cheering on 50% of the censorship and entirely supportive of 50% of the propaganda? Like, because that's what I've noticed. I've mentioned this like too many fucking times, man, and maybe not when you were on, but on the show. But it's so fucking true. And as big of a fucking douchebag as Matt Stoller is, when he called the DSA frightened authoritarian children, I was like, oh, fuck nut, you nailed it. You did. And these are the people right now who are like, woohoo, the Q people got censored. Yay! More censorship. You know, and I like they know, dude. They watched Lee Camp's show when Alex Jones got censored, and Lee showed fucking page after page after page of all of these pro-Palestinian voices, of a bunch of like fairly long-term and established alternative media websites, and so that all got purged when fucking Captain Gay Frogs got taken off of 90% of media platforms, and they watched this shit go down, and yet today they're still like, oh, it's a really good idea that these people's ability to communicate in one of the largest public forums that we have was taken away from them because they said things I disagreed with. How do you fucking break that kind of like, can you make someone who's authoritarian become more, you know, in the true broad sense of the word libertarian?
And see, okay,
I want to think so. I do. I gotta hope that that can happen, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, so I look at America, the world, however it works, it's a bunch of cultures and subcultures that are all operating, right? So the people that have maybe were over on one side of the fence and understand the pulse of something and both sides of the fence, those are the ones that have the language and really have the understanding of how to reach people and pull them over. And pull them over is we all have adjustments to make to understand why people are feeling the way they feel. And like what you're saying is you're pointing out like this, I guess the liberal left is what I guess people would call it, you know, is this the group of people that they want to get outraged about shit they don't even know what they're getting outraged. You know, they want to be involved, but they don't even know what to be involved in. They're just you know, they're there. You know, so it's like and I don't want to demonize people because I know people want to help, they just don't know, and you're programmed in one way, but at the same time you have to be real with people, like that they're full of shit. It's like the Green Party, right? If you go to look at the discussion page, it's all Howie because they've purged everybody that pushes back. They censor, oh, you're attacking someone. You know, he's running for president. You guys can't take a little bit of criticism, and that's, you know, so there is so much of that I feel like, you know, what we're talking about here is that there is a real lane for people to come together and discuss, because all we have to do is take every issue and apply this principle of how they manipulate facts, manipulate information, our emotions through movies, through the media, this social engineering. And I mean, you can look at it through, you know, Obama's time. I mean, look, it was the big issue was anti you know, Muslim, right? That was the big thing, Islamophobia, and about, you know, Islamic terrorism. That was the big thing, and that was the big conversation. In fact, that's what got me in, because, you know, I grew up in Pentecostal world. My pop's preacher, grandma, uncle,
Did we talk
grandpa.
about this the last time
I
we were on?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. It's that sounds familiar because yeah, I was Pentecostal light.
Right.
Is how I
So
was
that,
raised. Yeah.
you know, so then, because you know, I saw like you can't judge everybody, you know, so there's always like this nuance, and so and that's what set me on my path. Of course, I burned a lot of bridges, and I yelled at a lot of people, you know, because my emotional response, like, you're treating somebody like shit when you're it's like the Christian community is like, you guys are supposed to love, and you're not showing the love that you say that you're supposed to do. You can't love in a hateful way, you know. And it's the same thing as like the left. The left, if you're supposed to be, if you want people to be, um, you know, if you want people to be tolerant you have to be tolerant first. You have to understand why people feel the way that they feel, you know, and again, understand the building blocks of why somebody is, you know.
I've noticed that at least when it comes to um, quasi leftist Democrats, our good friend Misty, who has been good enough to co-host with us on the Assange vigils here for a while now. She refers to those progressives as liberals who want health care. Um, I feel like that particular segment of the populace is as unwilling to practice what they preach as their supposed counterparts on the right are. And when we try when we try to lead by example, as it were, um those are the first fucks who will be like, I'm what if an ambulance was on the road and you were blocking it while you were protesting? Or can't you be more like they're the fucking tone police. They're the people who want civility, when what civility really means is shut the fuck up while we screw you over.
No confrontation.
I'm going through the chat here real quick to see if we've got any more questions for you. There was a question that I feel like we kind of touched on. Oh, I fucking lost it now. I hate the YouTube on the phone. But it was basically like, how do we communicate how do we communicate these kinds of ideas to regular people at our local levels? And I think that may have been connected to running for office, but broadly, at least what I have found works in terms of like communicating with people at the local level is that you don't, like, not that you ignore your community, but that you just do the shit in the community that you say should be done. And then your community, by and large, will talk to you about it. You know, that's one way where leading by example actually fucking works, because you can get noticed relatively quickly in small towns and big cities just by doing something that needs to be done, because so many people bitch, but very few people are willing to get up and go out and do the work.
Right. Well, and there's where the Green Party, you know, could really be in handy. Like, there needs to be a real good template, like how to survey the land, how to look at your where you're at, you know, how to come up with what how to look at your resources and make something from your resources. So I'm in the country. I moved out of the city when I moved back to Tennessee. So, and that's what I've been doing, trying to figure out, and it's been hard. But you know, I want to take the town and create its own little mini version of Vegas in its own way, but do a country setting that that creates entertainment and all sorts of things for people that create their own stuff, work for themselves, and music and crafts, and create this community thing out in the country, and then take this model and take it to other little places.
So like kind of like a Branson, but it's not a living, waking hell every second that you're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and the idea is to go through the actual county, to the town, and look at what it is and create something from what it is. You know, like, imagine, so in Auburn town is where I want to create this long boardwalk because there's this real long creek that goes down this, this back highway. So have this boardwalk that's set up where people can bring, the goods and services and sell and stuff like that. But focus more on, people that work and create for themselves, that kind of thing, and really have a world kind of culture market out in the country, so it allows people in the country to get more access to culture. I mean, we
I would
have
visit that place. I would. Can I tell you something real quick? Not to
sure.
jump subjects too much, but I've been to Branson, Missouri exactly once in my life, and I got dragged down there because I was living in Kansas City at the time, and my roommate was the bridesmaid in a wedding, and the wedding was on a fucking paddle boat in Lake of the Ozarks in Branson. And because she was a bridesmaid, we had to show up like 3 days beforehand because you can't just show up as a fucking bridesmaid. There's like a fuck ton of extra work that goes into it. And by work, I mean getting shit faced drunk. And I guess, well, there's no strippers in Branson, so I don't think they got strippers, but they might have gone to a buffet or a casino or something. I don't know. I got drunk at a bar for like 3 days, but I remember someone telling me, and I can't remember fucking who now, and God, I wish I did. They said that Branson is like Las Vegas if Ned Flanders was in charge. And I have never heard a better. Have you been to Branson before? Oh
No,
my.
but I know people.
Oh. It was the fucking they're casinos, right? So there's shows and there's performers and shit. I swear to God, Yakov Smirnov was playing Branson, Missouri, and I almost went to see him because there's no way in hell Yakov Smirnov has updated his act since 1987. There's no way. That's just not what his gig was built for. So, like, I would have gone in and got to see, like, in Russia, government does you know, and like I would have got to see that. But no, it's the fucking. I couldn't even put myself through that. It was one of the weirder experiences that I have had, at least in the state of Missouri, if not, in the overall Midwest. It was a fucking weird time, man. It really was. Granted, it's
Well,
it's hellish. It is.
and you were saying something too, like about the language. I guess the question. I look at it like, so co-ops is an easy way to explain things. Like, rather than having to say socialist or socialism, co-ops, people work together, and everybody does their work for the bigger thing. And I even explain it like Ocean's 11. I'm an oceanist, I guess. Everybody puts in the thing for the big picture. Everybody has their own expertise.
If you
And
could get George Clooney to endorse that, you could have your fucking political party overnight. It would just have oversight from George Clooney. Imagine. But
yeah,
there's a pathway. There
right. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of baggage. See, that's the thing about getting into politics is you start to be a little bit harder on people than before. Like, I'm there's certain things I can't get past. Like, just I just can't get past, and it's like and for the People's Party, I heard in a meeting that Bernie or whatever, or AOC, it's big enough, they're going to want to come. Like, these people have already sold the American people out. They've already sold people out. Like, why would you want them to come and try and put their name on it when
because NPP is a fucking joke, homie. It is. I can tell you that because in 2015, I co-founded the Progressive Independent Party with Eric L. Bloss, and she took our platform to the original Convergence conference, and I had already kind of like done my part, walked away, And the next time I heard anything out of this platform that I wrote 95% of, and Eric Hell will corroborate that to this day. Um, the next time I heard it, it was coming out of Nick Brana's mouth on Jimmy Dore's show. And it turns out that he like liberated that platform from her at the Convergence conference, and now it's MPP's platform, and he is not the individual that he says he is. And when he's been asked for help by organizations that I know and that I've been a part of, he's been a ghost when it comes to putting his own personal face on it or people from his organization. When they don't succeed, it's not because there aren't earnest people who haven't realized what's going on yet, that aren't working hard to make their cause a success. It's because their leadership is incredibly incompetent.
And and you see that a lot too. Is why people are so comfortable putting the power in hands of people that do shit work. I mean, you see that all over the board. You just see it. If they want you to look and dress and talk a certain part, that's what makes them feel comfortable. It doesn't matter. You can be the biggest loser. You know what I mean? But as long as you would even attempt, and that's the whole thing. It's like Hawkins, right? And I hate to be like this, but I mean, you've been in the game 50 years, right? You ran 24 times. It's 25th run.
I thought he was 0-27.
No, he's 0-24.
Okay.
This will be his 25th. Well, I mean, his promo, right? So like so people are really thinking now that this is all done on purpose, to really lose. They really picked a shit candidate. So if you look at his initial opening when he launched his campaign, first of all, he said, "Oh, I'm not out here by myself. I'm out here as a collective leadership. Andrea, Margaret Flowers, Tony and Dege," which there's those same people that came up with the plan for 2020 and then selected him are still making decisions, and they're making decisions from their official positions. So that's where we're, how they're doing it. And but so anyways, that whole thing, he had a crooked tie. His tie was crooked, and then he took his promo pics. His tie was crooked. It was crooked all day long. All day long.
He should have just kept rocking a crooked tie for the rest of the campaign.
That would have made me laugh.
Could have been his thing,
Well,
my tie's crooked, but I'm a straight shooter. Some gay shit like that, dude. Like, I don't know, man. It's fucking. He could have ran with it, and people would have celebrated that. They would have been like, "That's our guy, dude. He's got the crooked tie."
He could
have been the guy with the crooked tie.
Andrea said something
rhymes
about my interviewing skills, and I said, I got it, on some conversation, and I said, well, you should, fix your tie, or fix the tie of your candidate so it doesn't look crooked, like it's campaign manager. Boom, 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 boom. So I got her good. So that shut her up.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, but see that bothers me. It's like, and then, because Jill Stein actually went around and campaigned to keep people off the ballots in Massachusetts. Like she called up.
Is she a Hawkins surrogate now?
Yeah, and that's what Ian revealed or whatnot. He said that basically that she was going for. I mean, it's clear that that they positioned this whole thing for Hawkins. With this whole eco-socialist Green New Deal. It's because it's all about marketing and branding and them continuing their little path of thing, because their whole target audience is like a boomer, the older crowd. I mean,
liberals who want healthcare.
Right. They don't want anything radical because they're more worried about raising money. You're going to raise money if you have if there's a reason for people to come to the party and engage, you're automatically going to raise. Look at how much money Bernie Sanders raised millions and millions of dollars.
Oh,
Like,
he grifted them good.
I mean, think about. I mean, one good candidate could raise millions and millions of dollars for the party, and then see, but that's the whole thing. Is they would rather, if they did that, then they couldn't do their little underhanded thing. They couldn't
Well,
maintain their hustle.
it's harder to run a top-down organization if you're building up people at the local and grassroots levels.
Right. That's not under your thumb. I mean, and
Yeah,
that's what they need.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you spend money on, actual people, then the people will, think they have a voice. You don't, and you starve them and you deny them the right to have a voice, then when you throw a couple of scraps at them, they'll be grateful for it. And it just kind of brings it all full circle with the US as a Pavlovian experiment. We're going back to the cruel and inhumane treatment of animals for study and fun and profit. And that's about what we got going on.
It's a shame. I mean, they're. I mean, so Michael O'Neill has been helped running Jill Stein's Facebook page with David Cobb. David Cobb was the nominee for 2004. You know David Cobb, right? I believe that was right, 2004. And then he was the campaign manager for Jill. Well, in 2019, Jill Stein for President Committee raised $150,000 or $160,000, and she's not running. And of course, David Schwab got paid. I believe, I don't know if Doonan got paid there, but of course, Cobb got paid a bunch. David Schwab's paid on Lisa Savage's campaign, Jill Stein, whatever, and Howie Hawkins' campaign. So it's being used as a little slush fund. So what they've been doing again is like this. They did do this like Green Way Forward content on Jill Stein's page, right? That's Jill Stein for president, or her Jill Stein. There's like 600,000 likes and followers. So they're doing that there, and then they share that content on the main GP page. And the main GP page only has 160,000 people, but the content that it's sharing, again, it's not original content, so it's not building viewers to come back. It's sending people elsewhere. So this is what they're doing. And if you look at Jill Stein's, so the hustle of professional activists, right? You pick your issue that you like, that you champion. Jill Stein's ranked choice voting, right? This whole voting thing. That's why she's working on this main. And then you got a candidate, which is Lisa Savage, and this candidate looks just like her. It's a doppelganger, like literally doppelganger of Jill Stein. And that's the whole marketing thing. They're going for this certain demographic, and it's more about jumping on board here. So she's not even running as a Green. She got endorsed by the party, but she was running independent. So she had to get 2,000 signatures of a state that there's 40,000 registered Greens, or she ended up getting 9,000 signatures of just, I guess, anybody or whatnot, in order to run independent. So, of course, our party's been promoting her, and not promoting anything else. So I mean that's again, and that's the other reason why independent media is not excited or engaged in the party. We're not actually putting anything out there. I mean, we should have been, Convo Couch. They would have done a debate, and they would have done it real nice. But
no, I saw them offer to do that. And like I don't know, man. It's always seemed counterproductive to me to do with political parties what has been done to political parties, but I'm not a soulless greedy fuck, so that's probably gonna seem counterintuitive to me. I gotta go though. I've got like 3 hours of shit to do before I get up and go to work in the morning. Please leave us with some final thoughts, and thank you for coming on the show, man. I've had a lot of fun. let people know where they can get a hold of you. And yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. And there was a question in the chat as to whether or not that was a real members only jacket.
It is. It's a real members only jacket. That's the real shit right there. Vintage, baby. Vintage. I you know, I'm still you know, I'm done with the race. I just have to terminate my candidacy. I was trying to wait to see what was going to happen with this whole FEC complaint thing and stuff like that. I'm still going to file my own, and I don't know if everybody's had a chance to take a look at that. So you can check out the Chad Wilson at Chad Wilson 2020 Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and you can see some of the information about everything that's been going on in the Green Party, the dirt and stuff. So, but from I have some exciting stuff that's going to happen after all this is done, once it's finalized. So I'm putting that together. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. So I've got some music and stuff coming out. So
Right on.
yeah. So I'm ready to switch gears. Still do politics in its own way, in its own right, to help and bring my expertise in to help. But this is, like we talked about, the electoral politics isn't the only way to put pressure, and it's not going to seal the deal. It's just part of it.
I agree that electoral politics is not going to solve it. Historically, direct action is the only thing that gets the even half of the response that we want. So that's going to do it for this episode. I will probably, over the next few days, because I did get your email with the FEC complaint, I will probably do a short video over the weekend breaking down what's in that FEC complaint. If you guys are interested, let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me know on Twitter if you want to see that happen. I am at Slow News Day Show on Twitter. I never fucking say that in the show. Action for Assange is still crowdfunding to try and get ourselves back to Washington, D.C. for all 3 weeks of the rendition and show trial of Julian Assange. Some incredibly fucking cool ideas for demonstrations that we can hold there. And we need help in order to get that done. I will grab the link for that and throw it into the chat real quick. And if you can, please donate to that. If you can't, I totally understand. 50 million people are out of work and pretty much everybody else is struggling. So if you can't, no big deal, but please share the link. If you can help proliferate that and get it out, it really does help us out. And I will see you, I think Saturday. Yeah, I think Saturday is the next time I'm gonna have one of these. Free Assange Vigil, 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again to Chad Wilson. Thanks to Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. And my name is Steve Poikinen. Good luck to us all.